like David, hold on.
And then she starts actually channeling light language, my friends. Hello, and welcome to Frequency Broads. I am Tara.
And I am Victoria, and we're so excited you're here today. Let's just get right into it. I'm feeling called to have us bring our hands together and start to rub the palms together, creating heat and friction and energy, and increasing the speed until your palms start to get a little warmer. And start to tune in to the sensations that are happening between your palms. Inhaling and exhaling, either setting an intention or maybe asking a question. On your next exhale, I'd like you to pause and form a circle, almost this magic ball with your hands. And start to feel the energy that's pulsating from your fingertips and your palms. And widen this circle and then bring it together. Tuning into the energy that you just created by simply rubbing your palms together. Kind of rotating. And if you feel like you need to go back and rub your palms together to create more energy, feel free to do so. But if you're really tuning in, treat this little energy vortex of your creation like a crystal ball. And either plant your seed of intention or ask your question, knowing that the answer will come to you in divine timing. And then I want you to just release the energy you created, shaking out your hands, your palms. And if you feel called to do so, placing your hands either on your heart, your hara, your face, over your eyes always feels really good. And taking one big deep breath in. And exhaling out, allowing this exercise to be something that can just remind you of who the fuck you are. That you are a powerful creator. And this is your reality. And Tara and I are happy we're in it.
Absolutely.
Hi, my beautiful friend.
Hello. And hello to everyone who's listening. Thank you for joining us today. And Victoria, as always, thank you for that embodiment. I was feeling a little low energy, so being able to create that within my hands and place that back into my body is starting to wake up the inside for me. Did you have an intention or a question that you feel like sharing?
You know, I think I was also feeling very low today, and I think that act of rubbing your palms together just kind of breaks. It's almost like snapping or clapping that like breaks up the energy in the room. If you need to generate energy within yourself, it's great to create some sort of heat or friction in the body. And so, no, I can't really say I had a question. I was more so like, how could I use this as a magic ball? So this is kind of a new exercise for me. I've been really trying to focus in on my energy and how I apply this vibration that I'm constantly creating with my thoughts to physical things. So like my food, if I'm cooking or if I order food at a restaurant and it may be chaotic and the energy might feel off, I can infuse my own energy into whatever I'm consuming.
That is awesome. I need to start doing that. But I think for me, the question I put in was just what needs to come through today?
That's a great question.
I guess we'll find out, because you said divine timing will tell me, and I hope that timing is now, because we're here. So shall we get into some topics that came up for you on the theme of soul contracts, so we can kind of see where we're playing with and what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. When I think about a soul contract today, I think of my purpose. Like, why the hell am I here? Why am I in this body? What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right track? All these questions that I think pressure us into thinking for ourselves, because I think a lot of times we're told or taught what we're supposed to be doing or what our purpose is. But on a soul level, why are we here?
Yeah. So just like the overall, for you right now today, the overall concept of what is a soul contract.
Yeah, and how that relates to my relationships, my cycles, my lessons learned, my karma even, my soul family.
Yes, that's what came through for me when I'm thinking about, like, obviously, first things first, what is a soul contract, right? Having a brief 101, what is a soul contract? Who are your soul pods? And then there were a couple things that I know come up in the spiritual community a lot that I want to shed light on a little bit as to how it relates to soul contracts. So things like relationship villains, soulmates, karmic partners, twin flames, and like ancestors, and what the difference is between those things.
Just easy
as like
topics,
a brief,
right?
Yeah, just like a what's the difference between them, right? Because we hear like, oh, our ancestors or our soulmates or our twin flames, like what is the difference? So that's what I was being called to share, is like when we're tuning into the energy of ourself and of others and the relationship and energy exchange we have between, how does that differ when we have these other soul connections based on our soul contract before coming here?
Let's do the damn thing.
Okay. So soul contract, what is a soul contract? For some, pretend I don't know it all. Pretend there are people out there listening who's like, what in the hell is a soul contract?
Well, some believe / I believe that we sign up for this life with a mission, and we come here to experience a certain frequency with people either from our soul tribe or people who will trigger us or allow us to remember what we came here to remember. Twisted, right? So I think a soul contract can look like a number of different things in different situations. I think that going along with the premise that we are all living in these parallel lifetimes at the same time, there are certain lifetimes that we call upon when experiencing a certain situation, and that frequency is able to be transmitted in the current moment that you're experiencing. So
I'd like to share my perspective of a soul contract.
Yes.
So, for lack of a better words, and my human brain understanding what happens beyond form, the way that I picture it is a literal contract. A literal sitting at the table with mediators, aka your guide group, and saying, okay, you're going to sliver off a piece of your light being into this vessel. And we're going to discuss if we want you to learn or elevate or grow in any certain ways. We know what would be best for you to deal with in order to have the opportunity to choose growth, understanding that it's a free will universe. So basically the same way people think of destiny or fate, right? It's this map out of, okay, and here's a junction where you're going to go through this hardship, and here's a junction where you're going to meet this person. And it's basically your best mapped out plan. And at any point, you can veer off that road with your free will, and your guide group is there to kind of give you a similar opportunity to realign to that original contract. Now, not like a human contract where if you don't meet the contract, something bad happens, right? We're not here to say if you don't fulfill this purpose that you fail, because just existing here and experiencing it means that you're successful because you're here. You're doing something. No matter what that free will choice is, you're doing something that is shifting and changing the vibration of your highest self or wherever it is you come from.
That was such a beautiful description. And I have to giggle at the idea of doing something wrong. Like, would we be sued by our soul group? Like our guardian angel being like, bitch, I'm suing you. You're not staying on track.
I love that. I love that. But sadly, well, not sadly, I guess the opposite of sadly, goodly. I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm like, don't give them any ideas.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. And let's keep it that way. And that's why I think we, go through these challenges as much as we want to say, well, why did this happen to me? And why did that happen to me? And, a lot of people say it in different walks of life. Everything happens for a reason.
And you don't always need to know the reason.
You don't. You don't. You just need to exist within it and see if there's an opportunity for growth. Even if you don't know what it is you're growing from, just see if there's an opportunity to find a new alignment after a shitty situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Let's go over the relationships. I couldn't help but think about place marker people. And I don't know if you've ever experienced.
I don't know that term.
I may have made it up.
Well, tell me about it. Tell us about it, please.
It's when you meet someone, what feels like out of the blue, and it's like a person that feels like deja vu.
Okay. I like what term did you call it?
A place marker person.
I like that. I like that.
And so when I've experienced place marker people, it's usually when I'm at some sort of like crossroads of a lesson learned and I'm given the opportunity, like, I keep attracting, if we're talking about romantic relationships, the same type of man. And I finally say, no more. I don't want any more of this energy. And then poof, this like really beautiful man comes in to tempt me. And well, I'm like, where are we going to go with this story? But it can either be that man or someone else that like is there to remind you, hey, make note of how this person makes you feel. Are they in alignment with you? Is this person the best person for you to be hanging around? Or have you said no once and for all?
I'm so glad you said that, because I just had a conversation with someone recently who's going through some relationship things, whether it was both romantically and friendship wise. And what I said to them and what came through for them was, yes, you will get the same partners over and over until you shift and say, no, I need to choose myself, or no, I need to set boundaries, or no, I need to do this or that. And then when you do, they're going to give you another one, because it's your opportunity to, in the first place, say no. Or in the first place, set that standard, right? So in your case, you're talking about these romantic partners over and over. And yeah, they may give you, once you finally put your foot down, they may give you the next best thing, right? Okay, boom, you shifted out of that cycle. But more times than not, they're like, here's an opportunity to really, instead of being in it and trying to break from it, know that that's not yours anymore.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So please don't think, first of all, there is no failing. There's no failing Earth. Okay. I mean,
well, you might just have to come back and do it again.
Yeah. But that's not a failure, right? That's learning.
No.
That's how way to be the teacher, Tara. But that's how learning happens, right? You learn from your mistakes. So there is no doing it wrong. It's just a learning process. So when you feel like you broke the chain, you broke the cycle, and then you get that again, don't feel like it's failure. That's your opportunity to say, yep, now that I'm stronger, now that I'm wiser, now that I'm this, I'm not even going to attempt that. It's not even going to tempt me.
Can we talk about what happens when you are in alignment with yourself and you start to attract people that maybe aren't the same karmic lesson? Because I think it's really interesting feeling pretty damn embodied and full of myself in the most ego integrated way. You attract a very diverse palette of energy. And you kind of get to pick and choose these different frequencies of people that inspire you and motivate you, challenge you. And I think it's so beautiful to be able to have this diverse palette of people who probably make up your soul group or your chosen family, which can or cannot be your soul group. Yeah.
And just as you are picking these frequencies that you feel are best going to suit you, you have to remember that people are also feeling your energy, right? When we talk about an energy exchange, yes, if we're all doing our best, then it's going to be beautiful no matter what. But sometimes, and this takes me to the first one that I've been really excited to talk about. Sometimes there are place markers or people in your soul group or karma, whatever the case may be, that trigger you, that bring up all this old shit that you felt like you healed. And what I've learned is that this is what we call your relationship villain. So it's not always true. But when you're saying, like, when you're clear and in tune with yourself, you'll know the difference between like just an annoying person and someone who's really making you face those things that are still within yourself. That's your relationship villain. And that means that you and this person's soul are on the other end, like dapping up. Like, oh my God, I just pissed you off, didn't I? Wasn't that so funny? Like, you got so triggered, right? We're straight up friends on the other side because we know that not that we can't learn without struggles, but the best form of learning is trying and making a mistake and learning what doesn't work and learning what feels right. So I know that I have had, let's take romantic ship partners out of the way. I've had coworkers that have really, sent me off the edge. Like, I was like, I'm going to blow up on this person. This is crazy. And when I sat back and realized, like, okay, well, what is it that's really bothering me about this person? And is it really because there's a lack of need or a lack of something within myself that I need to be looked at? And because I'm attuned to myself quite clearly, I was able to tell the difference between, no, that person's projecting their shadow and this feels like shit and that's not mine, to, oh no, this person is literally just living their existence and it's annoying the shit out of me because of things happening within me. So when we're faced with challenging people, especially in places like the workplace and friendships, it's try to remember that this person may be your buddy on the other side. So what are they trying to show you? Because a relationship villain is not trying to teach you anything. They're just trying to show you and say, oh, these are all the places that still need to be looked at, still need to be tended to.
And perhaps that person is just casting a light so bright onto you that you're forced to face your shadows. And while you might think it's the other person, it's most likely your own shit. And I have to admit, I am very much a relationship villain. I am the villain for many a people. And I was always very devastated when things would start to crumble or projections would be cast on me like it was my thing. But I'm like, this isn't me. You're describing you. You're putting me in the definition of how you are acting. And so when I started, actually, you're the one who introduced me to this concept of a relationship villain. And I'm so grateful because I've been able to detach and not take it so personal that these folks are triggered as shit by me. And at the same time, I've kind of found it to be my medicine that I'm able to offer people, even though it's not pleasurable or enjoyable. Sometimes it looks really ugly and feels shitty, and I'm still going to be here and love you regardless, even if we're not in each other's lives or you don't want to talk to me. I'm still blasting you with love. So,
and I think that's what Victoria means by a purpose, right? When you mentioned like coming down with a purpose, and I know you started to mention it, we can get more into it. It's not your fucking job. In our case, like if Frequency Broads became like our one and only job, like, yeah, maybe that would be our purpose, because the purpose of Frequency Broads is to heal our own soul and connect us to the grid of Earth. So in that case, yeah, that's our sole purpose, right? I know that feels aligned to me, and everything I've done in my life that feels right, teaching and being a counselor and, well, of sorts, and doing Frequency Broads and always being that person that someone comes to talk to, I recognize those are the times, even from when I was like first grade, when people would come to me for advice. That's my sole purpose, is to be the voice, is to be able to see someone's situation and say, oh, let me see it from not your dirty filters, and let me just tell you what you're being presented with, and then it's your choice, buddy. So that's what Victoria means by a purpose, not your job.
Totally. And what I've come to realize is it's more about the energy you bring to your job, regardless of the task or the career or the title. Because, we're now in our 30s, our 20s in our careers, it just is kind of a joke. You're at the bottom of the totem pole, working your way up to the top, playing the game, learning all these different personalities. And it has nothing to do with the job as much as it has to do with the energy you bring to the table.
Abso-fucking-lutely. And I think the purpose, right, that's just like clicked into my head as you were saying that, I think everyone's sole purpose is to live in alignment. And that's it. So you need to be able to tune into yourself and say, this job is not feeding me. It is not fueling my soul. It is draining my soul. Is there a chance that I can shift my frequency within this job? Maybe, yeah. Or maybe not, and I need to leave. So the purpose is to find your alignment, and everyone's alignment is going to be different. You just have to listen, and what lights up your heart is your truth. Sadly, we live in a capitalist society, so how do we find that light and still survive our day-to-day life, which is a challenge? But like Victoria said, it's about changing the frequency in how you show up and exchange your energy with those around you at your job or in your friendships.
There's no greater example of energy not lying, right? You've all heard this expression, energy doesn't lie. And when you're in a job that no longer serves you or you're no longer in alignment with, that energy ain't lying. If you're in a relationship past expiration date, can't lie from that energy either. And I think the more you try to run from it, the stronger that force becomes and slaps you in the face in mysterious ways. So
resistance is no fun, baby. I know it feels more comfortable, and we've talked about it in Cycles in Time, but resistance is what causes suffering. We are human. We are in form. We will feel pain. I will get a cut on my leg. I will get my heart broken. But it's not suffering unless I'm resisting the frequency shift and what's aligned with me. Speaking of relationships and staying in relationships that are too long, we talked about relationships and how it can trigger us and what comes up for us, and trusting the inner workings and when it doesn't feel right. But I want to take a quick note on things like soulmate and twin flame that we hear all the time. And I have my pen in my hand because I had to write them down because I don't use those terms very often. So I had to go back into like my own personal learning and be like, okay, what was what? Do you have anything to say about soulmate versus twin flame?
I think that a person can be both your soulmate and twin flame, but oftentimes they're most likely going to be a twin flame. And to me, twin flame means you come together, it's very passionate, hot, heavy, a lot of energy, a lot of chemistry. And then it either explodes, implodes, the fire dwindles. And I think to have a really successful twin flame relationship dynamic, you both have to equally, not always at the same time, tend to the fire. For soulmate relationships, it is quite the opposite. It's far less tumultuous. It's much more peaceful and trusting, and you're at ease and you're able to show up as your authentic self, which feels so good. Authenticity is actually, they measured it, a higher vibration than love. And I'm still wrapping my head around this, and I'm like, who is this scientist? But I read this recently that authenticity is a higher vibration than love. But you can't have authenticity without love. So let's give love credit where it's doing its magic. And
well, that's probably why it's a higher frequency, right? Because you need love. Integrated
love. That is, I think, the key.
Mm-hmm.
Because love is love, right?
Absolutely.
But integrated love equals authenticity.
Oh, I love that. For me, I feel that, and this is something when I look back on it, I was like, oh, this kind of makes me slightly uncomfortable. First of all, agree with you wholeheartedly there. Slight more definition-based, air quotes, from what I've learned in my classes. Twin flame, 100%. They call it a flame because it's passionate, it's fiery. First of all, these do not need to be romantic relationships. Your twin flame, your soulmate can be a friend, can be someone significantly older or younger than you. It's about the frequency connection, right? So it does not need to be romantic, although a lot of times it is, because there's so much love and authenticity there. But for me, a twin flame is someone, like you said, super igniting, and it's a catalyst for spiritual awakening. So that could be really good, but like you said, crazy energy that you need to sift through. And this means twin flames, that means both of you are going through the spiritual awakening. So that can mean that it's hot and heavy and you break up and it's terrible, but it helps both of you grow your soul. And even if you hate each other, talk about relationship villain, even if you hate each other, it led you somewhere. And the other part about a twin flame that made me feel uncomfortable, because I know Andrew and I both identified for a long time as twin flames, not saying we're not, but I forgot that I learned that your twin flame, well, some people believe, and what I was told was your twin flame shares the same soul as you. It's your other half, right? It's the part of you that's missing in you. Which I was like, at first when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, am I fucking dating myself? Are we the same fucking person, but just other parts of it? I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable about that, but whatever. And then a soulmate is a lot more grounding. It's someone you have connections through multiple timelines with. That's someone that you have this unique bond that is also helping you to grow. So I think by that definition that you can have more than one soulmate, that you can have an abundance of soulmates, because it's the concept of you having this other soul that have done many lifetimes together, which is what we also view a soul pod or soul family. I call it a soul pod or soul squad. But in that case, right, if Victoria and I have this frequency connection from other timelines or something, because I know we both feel it. That's why we got so close so fast. It felt like I knew you forever. So does that mean that you're in my soul pod, or does that mean you're one of my soulmates? Because without you, Frequency Broads wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be growing into this next phase of my life. Are you my fucking soulmate?
Yes. Yes, I am. Hi.
Oh my God.
the whole part about twin flames and I think your soul existing, I don't know. Part of me wants to say bullshit. And then the other part of me is like, I think that's kind of sexy and I want to date myself. And
well, and when I looked back at that, I remembered what you said during relationships when you said, when you look in my eyes and Andrew's eyes, we hold the same frequency. And then when I read that again, I was like, oh shit, man. Are we the same frequency? Are we the same soul?
With different flavors and spices.
Different flavors and spices. Absolutely, because we're very different. As we've grown both spiritually, and there's been like big like fiery moments and moments where the fire is tended out, like we both have grown so fucking much and continue to grow every day. So I'm like, maybe you are me. Which, speaking of, this is something that wasn't on my paper, but just a thought for you, a question for you. My family has experienced so many fucking doppelgangers. It's crazy.
Whoa.
Like our family, like we'll be out, like my mom and I and my sister will be out and be like, oh, why is my brother Anthony over there? And then we'll walk over and be like, oh my God, he looks just like him, but I know it's not because he just said he's somewhere else. Like, that's crazy. Or my sister was with her first partner and they broke up. And then my mom saw both of their doppelgangers holding hands like they were together again and got super confused. So have you ever seen a doppelganger? Have you ever experienced this? Does this have something to do with soul pods or is it just timelines crossing? I don't know. It just clicked into me and I'm like, what is a doppelganger?
That gave me goosebumps, the whole timeline crossing. Perhaps. Or this is all a matrix and they just
glitched out.
Yeah. Or aren't as creative as we give them credit for. Just kidding. I'm really happy with my DNA and genetic
just
makeup.
Just keeps hitting repeat. They're just like, shit, I'm too lazy. Just copy and paste that one. I swear they won't cross each other.
As long as they're good looking, let's keep it going.
Yeah. Just keep copy and pasting the ones I like.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game. All right. Well, if we're talking about souls, tell the people. You just did a soul retrieval. What is a soul retrieval?
Whew. A soul retrieval can be conducted during a meditation, usually guided by someone else. And in this meditation, a person allows you to tune in to the ways in which you've scattered your energy and the people whom you've given your energy to. And so the process is more so becoming aware of the parts of you that feel like there's a void or need extra love or attention. And you then open yourself up. You open your channel up to receive the parts of you that have been scattered about. And it can be a really painful process. It's usually like a surge of energy at first. And you're feeling really good and really alive and more like yourself. But the days following it require a lot of tender, loving care because it can be really painful depending on where that energy is coming back. And if your purpose is to focus on sexual partners, like you're definitely going to feel some serious womb work, womb integration happening. And I had this done last week. And for most of the week, I just had this deep painful ache in my like uterus, ovaries, everywhere in my lower half. And even in my belly, I was experiencing some digestive issues. And I'm feeling a little bit more myself. I could even hear the tone in my voice shift after I completed this soul retrieval. It ain't for the faint of heart, and I don't recommend doing it more than like every couple of months. But
to be prepared, clearly.
But it is so freaking fun and funny. After you've done it a couple of times and you kind of get through the painful process of it and the integration period, the people who come back out of nowhere, Mercury doesn't have to be in retrograde for exes or former lovers to come back and see how you're doing. Are you seeing anyone? How's it going? How's your career? Like, no.
How about no? Yeah, I think when we talk about energy exchange, let's also talk about the fact that there are energy cords. And that's the extended connection between someone. That's why these things like soulmates, people in our soul pods, twin flames, that connection already exists. So you're already feeling this person before you even recognize them. And when you see them, it's like, oh shit, yeah, I know you. But they also form through when we're making new connections. Mm-hmm. So new coworkers, new friendships, new partners, because it is an energy exchange. When you're really giving your all, or not even like giving some of you to someone else, you're creating that connection. And when you're miles and miles apart, it's a beautiful thing because I can still send love to all those people on the East Coast and say, I still feel you, even if we haven't talked, right? That's why you may get like I was just thinking about you. How'd you call me, right? Because you feel the energy connection. But there are also connections that you want to sever. And it could be done in multiple ways. Part of that is a soul retrieval, right? Taking back what you left with other people at other places and bringing it back into your own. But with cutting cords, I mean, there's many different ceremonies. I did it part of my closing ceremony. You could do it in meditation. A list of ways for you to just imagine. I literally make scissors with my fingers and just go around my body. And like, it could be that simple, just imagining like these cords cutting, and you'll recognize like where one's really thick and what is it connected to your womb? Was it because of this trauma or this relationship? But it's all part of energetic hygiene, because if I'm connected with someone that created turmoil in my life, then all that cord, think of it as an umbilical cord, right? We're feeding each other's life force with that. And if they're feeding me with shit, it doesn't matter if I don't talk to them or don't see them anymore. I'm still ingesting their negative or nasty or grimy fucking energy inside me. So it's the combination of cutting the cords and then receiving your soul back. And Victoria is right. They come out the woodworks because all of a sudden they're like, where's Tara? Where's Victoria? Oh, like it just clicks in their head because that energy is no longer like fueling them, and they feel like, hold on, I gotta reach out to this person. There's your opportunity to say, oh, I did this a million times. My soul path is going me this way, but here's someone who's like, go this way. And your guide's like, yep, this is a great opportunity for you to say, no, stand your ground. This isn't worth it.
I'm so glad you brought up cord cutting, because it's such an important practice as part of your spiritual hygiene. And I do feel that the soul retrieval process in conjunction with cord cutting is like pure magic to amplify who you really are energetically. And for me, I really like to do the cord cutting first and then allow the soul retrieval to come in and literally melt away any of these like tentacle energy outlets and bring it all inward and allow this like sparkly, beautiful light in your auric field to cleanse you and protect you, and not allow anyone else's energy when they reach out or you're walking on the street, whatever, to penetrate this field. And if they do penetrate this field around you, it's absolutely just going to dissolve in your presence.
And when you have that field and you're faced with relationship villains or a karmic soul tie, it's not something, it comes into your field of vision, right? And you could see it clearly for what it is and say, oh, this is someone who's triggering this response in me, and I'm just going to work on it myself. It has nothing to do with this person, or this person's projecting onto me and it has nothing to do with me, right? So you're able to recognize things like relationship villains. And another one I want to talk about is karmic souls, because your karmic soul ties is that person who really does mirror your darkest energy. So where your relationship villain may, like Victoria said, shine so brightly that you can see all the things inside you, this person is all the things that you haven't dealt with or hate about yourself or whatever are being mirrored back to you. And it gives you an opportunity to redirect because you recognize this mirroring process of what they're doing is literally what's happening inside you. So it allows you to redirect. So there's so many different energetic connections that we can have because there's so fucking, like, just think about how big the universe is, right? Our observable free will universe outside of the many other universes. And then you think about how we're a soul that slivers into many other me's. Like, there's so many ways that we can intertwine with different soul pods and soul connections and make new ones in new lifetimes. So it's important to do the spiritual hygiene. It's important to recognize what cords need to be cut. When do I need to retrieve my soul again so I can feel full and really tend to myself, my soul family, and make new soul connections that are going to help me evolve and grow.
While on the topic of cord cutting and soul retrieval and karmic partners and karmic connections, do you know anything about quantum entanglement?
I don't think I do. Not by that name anyway.
Yeah, let me describe it and maybe you know it by another name. So it's the premise that we're all part of this quantum field, this energetic grid that connects us. Some call it the collective consciousness, some call it humanity, but it's this premise that there's this energetic field around all of us that connects all of us. And so when you connect with someone at an energetic level, there can be these particles that get intertwined between you. And it doesn't always necessarily happen in your physical body. It is actually, I envision it more our higher selves being intertwined. And quantum entanglement can be a little bit more tricky because I don't think we're just kind of learning the ropes and like cord cutting and keeping our energetic field clean and clear. But quantum entanglement is kind of this whole other beast that I think our higher selves, our souls are linking with this person or people to evolve at a faster rate. I think quantum entanglement is like a catalyst on steroids.
That's so funny because I haven't heard of that term or really understood heard that concept before of, two souls kind of merging into one to help boost both of your involvement. But I did write down something that caught my attention, and it's very similar to what you're talking about. And I wrote, when relationship has two whole partners, and this means any kind of relationship, you create a third energy level.
Whew, goosebumps again. Yes. That's
so
exactly
I think
it.
it's that same. Yeah, I think it's that same concept of when you have two people who are truly living authentically, having that highest fucking vibration, apparently, then you're going to merge into that, like, imagine Venn diagram style. And in the center is this new energy source. And what I read was that it's divine creation, that it's the opportunity to create something new, to form new energy, to, because you're infusing your two energies together. So hell yeah, we are on the same page with what's coming through.
I feel like I'm currently experiencing a quantum entanglement. So it's at top of mind right now.
Ooh, do you feel like it's two whole partners ready to create a third level of energy?
That's a good question. I do think that sometimes one person is inspired or feels motivated because of the other person's level of consciousness. And so they want to step into their higher selves or their newer selves or evolved selves. And so it takes the other person to kind of energetically hold space and amplify and allow that to take place. Doesn't always have to be romantic. It's usually more fun if it is.
It's so funny too because with Valentine's Day that recently passed, Andrew and I always write letters for like every holiday. So obviously, me being spiritual my whole life, the second I met Andrew, I'm like, let's go. We're going to do the work and you should do this. And every time there's a problem, I'm like, go in, go in. And I was always trying to teach him and tell him without just like, not that I wasn't living it truth in my own life, but I was so focused on him and so concerned about evolving without him and having this gap between the two of us. And because that's the fear that I was holding, that was the fear that I was projecting, and it did become my reality for a little bit. I felt disconnected because I was growing and learning more about myself, and I wanted him to do the same, and he wasn't. But for the past 2 years, I really stepped into just like, Andrew, you do whatever the fuck. Like, I'm here. I'll support you. Just do you, dude. Like, as long as you're happy, and even if you're not, that's your fucking problem. Not really, but like, you know. And this last letter he wrote, I have really watched you become exactly who you want to be and your authentic self, and you're inspiring me to do the same. I'm ready to like now step into this part. And so it's exactly like you're saying, right? It's you being the lighthouse for the sake of being the lighthouse. You hope that ships come by and can be guided from catastrophe by your light, but ultimately, that's not the point of you shining. The point of you shining is to fucking shine. The purpose of being on earth, your soul contract is to find alignment and to just live through that, to experience life as if you are brand fucking new to earth and looking at every petal like its own energy source.
Hallelujah. I feel that. You know, the other thing that comes to mind when thinking about our soul purpose, I think acts of service, and we were talking about love languages last episode, but acts of service, being of service to others, this phrase has been reserved for very particular parts of our society and culture. And in the States, it's very focused on the military. And so I've always kind of made note of, okay, cool. I see how you're being of service, but in each of our roles, how do we feel or how are we being of service to others? And for me, it really comes down to being freaking kind, being considerate, being compassionate, being loving, especially to those who aren't being that way to themselves. In what way do you feel like you are being of service, Tara?
Well, I feel like that's an easy question for me being a teacher, especially in the position that I'm in currently, where my day is surrounded by making sure that children from 5 years old to 14 years old feel secure and confident and loved and heard. And I'll tell you, your girl makes dirt money. And it's funny because one of the students were like, oh, do you get paid like a public school teacher? And I was like, no. And I was like, I literally barely make ends meet. I'm here for you. I'm here because I want to make sure that you're okay. And I think that even not being a teacher, like Victoria said, you can be serving your team, your coworkers, your partner. I feel like I'm acts of service with Andrew in just the way that I make sure I step up and tend to the flame that is our fucking twin flame. Or acts of service with, you know, my family, because literally everyone in my family has trouble speaking their emotions. I do not know a single, no offense, fam, but I do not know a single family member that is comfortable being authentically themselves and talking about their feelings. So my act of service is frequency broads for myself, for my family to say, oh my God, she's finally fucking saying it, or it's okay to say out loud. And I think another part of frequency broads is my acts of service for the consciousness, for that energetic grid, the electric web that we live in, right? We have our energetic body, our soul, and our magnetic body, which is our human. And like serving those across the board is really my soul's purpose is to just be the voice.
Thank you so much for being the voice.
You're welcome. I'll always be the voice. I don't shut up. So
quite the beautiful voice.
And what about you? Where do you serve the people?
I'm a space holder. I feel like in the workplace, of course, I show up and I bring my best self and allow people to work through their questions or their kind of whatever they're contemplating. And by simply holding space for people, it's so beautiful to witness how many times I don't even have to say a single word. People find the answers on their own. And to witness it is it's like a magic trick, right? So yes, space holding is kind of its own unique thing, but when you hold space for someone to then, whether I'm being their mirror and they're able to bounce their ideas off of me and come up with their own solutions, it's just a really cool experience to be part of. I'd say not in the workplace. If I'm thinking about holistically what I contribute to the collective consciousness is walking this fine line that I think a lot of us are really trying to sort out, this idea of individualism. And in the US, our culture, especially those who were born in the 80s, 90s, and grew up through this very strange time, your Pluto placement is probably in Scorpio, which kind of has its own workshop of meanings. But mostly we're here to be the transformers. We're here to break the generational curses, break the societal structures that are total bullshit and not serving any of us anymore, and pave the way for a new future. And so I really do feel like I show up in a way where I'm able to kind of be a disruptor, equal parts peacemaker, equal parts authentically myself. And going back to that fine line of individualism and contributing to the collective consciousness, I think I talked about this a few episodes ago where I'm like, it's always yes and. But this idea of individualism and the fact that we have to fill our cups up first and foremost in order to pour into others. And so I think that's the yes and. We are tasked with caring for ourselves on such, I think, complex levels, from tending to our mind, our heart, our guts, our energy, our muscles, even like every little bit and piece of our body and our spirit has to be tended to. And, you know, I really do like to use the visualization of filling up my cup. And I just think there's a whole piece to the puzzle that like needs to be expanded upon, and maybe more people need to walk the walk so others can see that there's yes and. Now we're ready for the and that is learning how to retreat back to fill up your cup when it needs to be filled. But then also choosing, you get to choose whose cup you fill, which I think is so important, because I think there's always this obligation, especially those of us who are the helper or the fixer. But make your choice wisely, because you don't have to do anything.
Oh, can we record this and send it back in time or to the other timeline of young Tara? Because she felt like she needed to fill everyone's cup, being the fixer. And something that I've recognized is there are acts that you can take that fill your cup while you're filling someone else's.
Ooh.
Just the simple fact of my mental health and my energetic cup is filled with a clean space. A clean space is a clean head. If I clean the space for myself and for Andrew, then I am filling both of our cups, because he steps into a home that is clean and ready to be tended to in another way. Now, the difference is I can clean up, like today, I vacuumed and mopped and whatever. And I could sit there and think about how much I'm doing that Andrew's not. Then I'm not filling up anyone's cup. Or I can really think about it in a way of tending to both of us, knowing that it's filling both of our cups. Similarly, with you being a space holder or me being a voice, right? Which, what a dynamic duo, by the way, the speaker and the listener. We could probably learn a little bit from each other. But holding space for you is hopefully, at least sometimes, filling your cup and not so draining, because you're serving someone and you know that you're seeing them grow and you're seeing them light up. But it's also filling that other person's cup because they're able to express and find community and find love and kindness. So yes, be super mindful of who you're filling, because you don't want to create energetic cords that aren't healthy for you. And yes, fill your cup, because if your cup is empty, you can't fill anyone's. But see if you can play around with being able to do both at once. And something that one of my teachers taught me is we wear different masks in our lives, and it's okay to do so. I cannot be 100% Tara as a teacher. Inappropriate, right? I cannot be teacher all the time. Like, I need to be able to put that mask on and off, as long as in that role I'm living authentically to myself. And something that my teacher took me through was, okay, if I put on the mask of partner, what are the things that bother me most? And that's why I thought of cleaning, because I was like, I'm the cleaner. I'm always the clean one. This is annoying. Why doesn't Andrew do more? And she was like, how do you switch that perspective from the cleaner to the tender? Now I'm not just emptying my cup because I'm angry at Andrew. I'm filling both of ours.
Yes. You know, something that I was reflecting on recently was going back to what you said about the listener and the voice. I have been put in situations where I've worked with very powerful personalities who, I wouldn't say would outshine me in any way, but they would definitely have a louder voice at the table. And I think for me, it just is disingenuous for me to try to match the level of someone else's voice or to speak up or speak over. First of all, that is so fucking rude. If you speak over someone, recognize why you're doing it. And if you're not able to retract back, is it because you're excited? Is it because, or like, are you just not listening to what the other person is saying? Like, but when reflecting on, I mean, we're more than halfway through this first season, how my voice shows up next to your voice. I then started to remember, and I would call them relationship villains. They're often people I worked with who had these louder voices, not as beautiful as mine, but they were loud and they were in charge. And, you know, it's so interesting when someone speaks with authority, how that truth is then reverberated out and then becomes other people's truth. I mean, we can, you know, there are very obvious examples of this in politics today, but I really wanted to make sure that how I'm representing myself is fully shining through. And I know many of you who have been listening to each episode and have heard me work through all of my kinks and tears and painful, just, I don't know what I even want to call it, but my throat chakra that's been my twisted sister. I have been healing so much, and I'm able to speak my truth more freely. It's not to say I wasn't able, like I can think my truth, but I never felt safe to speak my truth. And so there are all these like tears to like getting to this point of having a voice that is equally as powerful as Tara's beautiful, powerful voice.
Well, I'm happy that you're starting to be able to speak your truth, because once you're able to speak your truth, are you able to live your truth?
Well, what it's really come down to is I could have been speaking my truth a long time ago if I didn't care about what other people thought. And I think in the process of starting this podcast, I've detached from what other people think of me. I really hold zero value. Yes, I want people to think I'm a good person and that I'm a woman of integrity and I mean well, and I'm here to be of service. But the projections are often that of the person having very strong opinions that aren't in favor of another. Or it's just as simple as an energetic misalignment. And, dissonance is not something to ignore. I think it's really important to recognize it and move on and not hold any energy to it. But when you linger and you project onto something that causes you dissonance, like you're doing a disservice to everyone.
And I think when you're not so focused on what other people think of you, but the energy that you give out, right? Because like you said, it's their projection, it's their reality, it's whatever's happening inside them projecting outward. As long as you're showing up, making decisions from your heart, knowing that you're not trying to do harm to anybody, right? Like even when we trip up, taking responsibility for that, but really noticing the energy exchange, right? What part of my soul is being projected outward? And how does that align with who I am and my purpose and my soul contract? That's what's really going to make the difference.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of that age-old saying that is so like icing on the cake. People don't remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel. And I really do hope that I make you feel some sort of way, some sort of good, some sort of...
You do.
Thank you.
You very much do.
Thank you, partner.
Well, I know in the beginning I asked what needs to come through, and I feel like everything that needed to come through without it being too overwhelming came through for me.
I think I want to touch on one last thing when it comes to soul contracts. And I'm always going to be a huge advocate for astrology as a tool for self-discovery. But your energetic blueprint can be found in your astrological chart, in your birth chart. And think what you will of astrology. I think that modern day, what you read in the newspaper is for sheer entertainment, if you find it to be entertaining, of course. But a lot of what astrology has kind of dwindled down to in modern day is absolute bullshit. And I'm just here to remind you that if you are curious and you do want to learn more about yourself and understand your energetic makeup, one way to begin is to look at your birth chart.
I absolutely agree. Astrology is not my strong suit. I don't know much about it, but I know that much is true. And it's the concept that your soul contract, you come down with challenges already placed on your path. And that is why we have placements that maybe aren't so nice or, trigger us in certain ways. Another big thing for me is your astrology signs and makeup, your energetic blueprint is not a fucking excuse. It is a way to learn who you are. So don't tell me, like in my case, oh, I'm just a Capricorn. Oh, I'm just a Scorpio rising. Sorry, it's just how I am. Like, no. We learn what those things mean so I can say, ooh, that's where I need to make sure that I'm more cognizant about the way I show up, or that's the work that needs to be done because coming down here, the blueprint I was given, these are the challenges I'm going to face. So please, no offense, but don't come to me and say, oh, I'm sorry, it's this season. And yep, we're all in this season, buddy. We all feel it. Use it as a tool to recognize and say, I need to be prepared for this, not a fucking excuse.
It's Pisces season and we're all crying. We're all in our feels.
God, I've been crying so much.
Such a great release, though.
Love it. Cry every day. That's it for me. That's my last advice. Cry every day, friends.
So regardless of the avenues that your soul contract will take you, I'm just wanting to remind you it's the practice of unconditional love that will unite us all. And I have felt nothing but love since starting Frequency Broads, and the amplification of our message, our voices can so be felt. And if you feel called to do so, please like this video, like this podcast, share it with your friend who might resonate, and subscribe. Isn't that what the kids say on YouTube?
Subscribe. But hit that bell notification so you know when a new one comes out.
Gosh. Every Thursday, baby.
Thank you so much. We are so happy you joined us and that your soul path brought you here, my friends. See you next week.
Love you.